Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and get started since it's 6 o'clock. If people join in, I'll address them as they come. The first game, this will be the 5th game of Season 10, the NAOL. This is Game 1, Tall Paulig versus Dragon Reborn 96, 4Q versus 6Q. We'll start from now. Already, White is playing very interesting, unorthodox opening choice. Typically, we prefer to prioritize the corner, then the sides, and then ultimately the center. Something like this. But okay, White is choosing to break sort of the mold, maybe get Black out of the comfort zone. Against this type of thing, the best thing you could do as the Black player in this situation is just take an empty corner. White's move is going to be inherently less efficient than starting in the corner anyway. So by taking a corner next, this will allow Black, even if White follows up in a corner, this will allow Black to get 3 corners instead of the usual 2, which will be to Black's advantage in the opening. So Black does in fact take the corner, and White chooses to take this corner with a 3-4 point. And we get Black playing this one. Yeah, so everything is as we have foreseen. And White approaches. Now, this approach is possible, but if we look at the standard Joseki in this situation here, we can sort of see how White's original opening move at A is no longer in a good spot. It's a little too close to the 3 strong White stones, and if White could, White would really prefer that stone be placed one further at C10. So this attachment is making sense. When Black does in fact play this Joseki, and White plays Tamiki from now. Black answers here with diagonal. This is of course okay. White stone here at D3 is going to be looking to develop area 1 first, and then area 2 supplementary after that. Black's diagonal is going to make the expansion to area 2 a bit more difficult for White, so it's got some whole board implications in relation to the bottom side. Also, locally it's very thick, so if White does not take a base with White's A stone, Black is going to be able to follow up with a pincer at B, which will in fact work very well with Black's stone in the upper right corner. So naturally White takes the base, this is good, and Black chooses to enclose. A little bit higher level, I'd say around mid SDK, I would start considering to leave the 2 stones. If you're below maybe 5-6 then I think L3 is a really good move. Stabilize it so that the corner cannot be, the corner 2 stones cannot be attacked easily. Just eliminate the development to the bottom altogether. It's a very, very good, solid move. When you get to a little bit higher level, maybe 5Q and above, I would recommend to start playing some more big opening points. For example, P16 would be a really good one for Black here. And the main reason is because even if White does choose to attack the 2 stones, it's actually very difficult for Black to die here. Black is already ahead in the race to center, so even Black can just kick and Hane connect, for example. And Black is going to be very much alive in the situation. Even if White gets to seal Black in, the shape that we would see in the corner is a carpenter square, so at the worst, if White does play A, it's going to be a ko. This is an acceptable result for Black. Of course, if White extends down, then Black has the ability naturally to run to center, something like this, or Black can of course block the corner. This will be a very similar result. But okay, so Black defended, and White chooses to approach the corner. Black attaches, looking for this Joseki, because now if White settles on the top side, Black is not so concerned. Black's corner group is already very low and solid facing the top, so White cannot get a lot of additional value here. From this point, Black would be able to use the Sente to break at White's left-hand side. This would be a good flow for Black. In the game, White opts to ignore and play this Iron Pillar, which is, truth be told, not a move I understand. Generally speaking, this Iron Pillar shape we don't usually use unless we are responding to opponent's attachment or forcibly trying to separate a shape. So for example, if black had a position like this and wanted to separate the 1 and 2 stones, black could consider iron pillar a multitude of different ways, and white would not have a working connection anymore. But on this board, it seems that this one is just lacking in efficiency. There's no threat to the 3 black stones. They're perfectly comfortable with a base. And so white is kind of just giving up Sente for no inherent value. If white is worried about the stability of 2 stones, I would recommend to white consider sliding at A or maybe jumping again at B. Both of these are going to be more efficient as they take territory as well as increase the space for white's eyes. This lapse in tempo will allow black to follow up black's move here, which is quite painful for the 1 white stone. This white stone is now down to 2 liberties and is very hard for white to move. Hello, Ken. Welcome. But so black chooses to Tanuki. This is probably also okay. But I would recommend if you ever make this attachment to white's A stone, and white ignores it, following up is probably bigger than a typical approach move, usually speaking. Alright, white chooses pincer and black comes out. White is taking territory, black is pressing down. This is an okay move. It bridges along the top. There is a push and a cut in the variation for white, which would start a fight, but it seems black is not so worried about the fight due to white's incredibly low position at the left. If white tries too hard to fight, it's going to be very easy for black to build good shape and grease around white. So this move is not bad. Black can also consider to play a jump here, or of course this 2-space cap works as well, and this knight's move is also possible. And white goes back, bumps, and black chooses to connect. White extends, and black is content taking territory. This is certainly fine. However, again, we should observe that black is very low and strong here. The value of a white turn at A is a little bit diminished because of this this detail. So it might be a slightly better direction for black to push a couple times here and remove a lot of the territory at the right-hand side from white. At this point, black never needs to spend a move here in Gote unless black wants the territory. Black can, for example, do something a little bit more positive for territory, which would be this B3 knight's move, following up the H3 press. So here I think this direction of play question, wherever we're thinking about what's the correct direction, we should always examine the surrounding stones. But okay, white ignored again and played this attachment. Now normally we don't ignore attachments, however we should observe that white's group is incredibly thick and black's 2 stones are not particularly in danger. Why are they not in danger? Well, we have an A stone giving them a base, and we can always jump to B in the corner and make a living shape. So the white push at P5 is not Sente. This will allow black to Hane at 1, or push at 2, both of which are quite big moves, as well as any number of other moves on the board that could be decent. But again, it's another, like the Q5 extension, it's another really slow step by white and very, very concentrated shape here. Not so efficient. But okay, black answered, protecting territory at the bottom side. Presumably black was worried about white coming in, something like this, or maybe black was having some reading trouble with double Hane. Of course, double Hane is not going to work for black because white will capture the cutting stone and a ladder here. And if white plays the knight's move, for example, this one, black can always bump here and then Hane. And like this, of course, white can extend, black can connect. Black is going to end up getting the 3 exchange anyway. Just locally 2 points of territory worse. But this early in the game, 2 local points here is not really going to be the main focus. For black, the Hane at 1 is quite big. The white 4 stones do not have a base yet. If white, for example, Tanukis again, this black Atari is going to be quite painful for the white 4 stones to endure. Okay, white's jumping ahead. This is giving white another group to run to and reducing the top side. Of course, also kind of gets ahead of black's push at A and this potential knight's move attack at B. But this move in and of itself is questionable, I think. Whenever our opponents or we ourselves play moves in Gote on the side of the board like this, we always have to be sort of aware that these moves can be made to be mistakes later in the game. Like how we saw on the Joseki here, black made white's C11 stone into a bad placement. These stones like K16 can also become bad placement, and if they do, it's usually followed by an almost immediate 3 to 5 point loss in territory. So questionable. White's going to have to really make sure that this move is useful somehow in this game to sort of justify spending a whole move to play it. Ascente is very valuable. And so here black is choosing to block. This is certainly big. Black can also consider to Hane, but presumably black was worried about white getting these extensions and then possibly connecting. Now this Atari is no longer Sente for black. White can ignore it. And so maybe that was black's concern, so black decided to push first. All right, white is coming down. White is basically looking to play something like A or B to settle. This move is not on its own Sente. If black does ignore it, white might have some future benefit with the peep here. There's a cut, for example, that black can play, and if this sort of thing were to happen, there's a bit of a liberty scuffle with white and black here. In this situation, black would lose. If like this, there's a potential ko, and we can play this one, white can descend, we can throw in, white capture. So a little bit of tricky reading in the corner if black chooses to ignore white's knight's move. Of course, black can also connect and give the base to white. Black would choose to do this if black has the means to both split and attack somehow like this. Maybe this one. It's possible for black to do something else here. In the game, black chooses to come out. And I think that this one is a bit of a mistake. White is not going to have an easy time bridging these even in one move. So I don't think black has to be hurried here. If I'm black, I kind of want to use the danger level principle. White is threatening a reduction at A. We are threatening the life of white B. Our threat is a little bit bigger than white's. Therefore, white should answer, and black can get many things. Also, despite white having played 4 moves here, we can imagine a world where, let's say, white starts getting out, black settles, cuts white off, we'll have white even play away one more time. We can imagine a world like this where this white group is not alive yet, somehow in the later stages of fighting, even though white has spent 4 moves early on with this group. So there's a lot of positives to black coming in at 1 here. Another move black can consider is to invade from this side. Again, we're enjoying this B3 threat later, so if white tries to get too aggressive, it's going to be very difficult for white to manage. But okay, black comes out, and then white jumps. And this jump is going to try to help support an eventual cut through at A. Black defends it, that's very sharp, and then block. This is also quite good. This block is really good for the territory at the corner. Here, white does have a cut, but it's unclear how useful the cut is going to be. We can imagine something like this, and white is weak group 1, 3, and 5. And then white is elevated. This elevation might be okay. I think white should probably play Kaketsugi, Tiger's Mouth here. This would help to thicken up the shape a little bit, giving it some eye space. For example, we can jump at A or Hane at B. In both cases, white is going to be alive, or very, very close enough to alive that it's not realistic black is going to be able to kill it. And that would remove a lot of potential danger as well as profit. Black would not be able to attack it as hard, which means black cannot get as many nice things. Plus, we really don't want to have weak group situation with group 1 and group 2, where we've got 2 weak groups, and black has a vital point right in the middle where black can split them. So I think that that's very urgent, because now black can entertain something like, for example, this jump at 1. If white plays some flying move here, or even some move, let's say this one, to defend the right side group, then all of a sudden white is not alive here yet. Black is going to be able to surround white and get some positive benefit. And if white ignores the right side and says, no way, I'm coming out, then black gets to pinch. And this pincer is going to be quite powerful for black against the white 4 stones. Okay. Black does something slightly similar, although black is choosing to do it a little weaker shape with the knight's move. This one is going to allow a potential cut, which white goes for immediately. This cut does not directly work, however. It's worth noting that if black simply surrounds white, this sort of cutting tactic doesn't go anywhere in the corner. Black has too many liberties. So this sealing method of 1 and 3 would be quite effective for black. White could, of course, extend it to stop this. And if white does extend it to, then black can simply pull back and allow white this option to connect underneath. If white connects underneath, then at any point, black can cut at 9 and capture the 3 stones. This is going to give black a leg up in the fight against the top side. So right now, positionally, it's looking quite good for black. In the game, black chooses to clamp, and I think this one might be a bit dubious in the shape. If white simply covers from above, this Atari is not impressive. White can fix, and now there's no way to bridge the weakness here as well as save the 2 stones in the center. Black kind of has to extend or play Tiger's Mouth. And then white is going to get to come out and damage black's cutting stones. Black chooses to Hane, white counter Hanes and connects through, and now black is trying to fight, but this one is going to be working slightly less. White can, for example, turn. If black ignores the turn, then we have to have a reading exercise. White can cut through. It's going to be a bit dangerous for black. But okay, white is surrounding. And with this, the cutting stones have died. Black has gotten some territory at the right-hand side for it. But now that white has extracted, all white has to do is make sure that white starts playing good endgame. And okay, white's going to have chances to win now. Okay, black protects the cut. This is okay, white comes in. I think this, black was protecting against white's attachment here. Black was presumably afraid of something like this. But with these types of shapes, you have to read whether or not your opponent is actually alive. Whoops. If white can live, it could be quite dangerous, but black is also capturing back here, so it's hard to say. So black is defending, it seems, against that. And then white gets to take the corner. White getting both feels really big. White's gaining a lot of territory with these. And then from this point, I think actually white is ahead. And so even if white only converts half the moyo, I think white is at this stage winning. All right. Also welcome in Marty. Yeah,
Thank you.
The rest of this is just cleanup. And white is quite ahead. I don't think anything too crazy happened. Yeah. Alright, awesome. And that was this game. I would say for black, a lot of the key details come to in the early middle game. Black was doing quite well. But I think black sort of goes awry here. When white starts the fight, black did realize it was overplay, but black's method of handling the 4 white stones was just a bit rough. In this case, peeping and playing Kosumi would be the proper way to catch them, as white doesn't have a working cut to squeeze all of black's liberties down. And because the cut on the upper side does not yet work for white, black was able to capture the white stones and have a favorable middle game. But because black chose this one and lost the cutting stones in such a way, white was able to immediately stabilize and drive the game into an endgame where white was winning. Right, we'll move to the next game. This one is Zonum 6Q versus Kacha Wandan 8Q.
Review started.
This one was also a white win by 30. We'll see how this happens. Right, fairly standard opening. We have territorial orthodox. White comes in with the approach, stabilizes. Everything is normal until now. And so again, we have the same thing as last time, right? Corner, side, center. All the corners have been played in, except approaching corners are usually still bigger than extending on sides. So even though black's move at L4 is working in the sense that it's hindering some development of white A, there's almost no reason for black to not go all the way to F3. Perhaps black is scared of, oh no, white's going to pincer, but this is part of the reason why we play diagonals, to have good fighting chances here. If black simply comes out and re-pinchers, it's going to be difficult for white to fight this. Of course, white can kick and attach and then jump. These are all fairly common situations, and it is a fight, but it's a fight where black should be doing quite well, actually. If white stabilizes this way, for example, black is connected underneath with good territory. White's corner is not yet closed. So I don't think black should shy away from such things if black is going to play this diagonal. Otherwise, black really should not be playing this move at all, and instead black should just be settling the territory, because then black can just simply invade and not have to worry about any fighting whatsoever. But okay, moving on. White then plays this one. So probably white has seen some lecture or video somewhere, or is at least familiar with AlphaGo, enough that white knows that this is sort of the common move against the small knight, one of the reasons we don't see it so much. On this board, without white having much to do in the center, it's probably not the most urgent point. I can't say it's a mistake, but for example, white could just make another base, or white could enclose to remove black's natural F3 follow-up. That would also be big. White can also enclose at F17 to remove black's F17 approach. These are all very big points in the opening that are probably slightly more urgent on this board than one. Typically, we would play this move when we need to reduce a black framework that's forming on the right-hand side, or when we need to build a center presence ourselves to prepare to attack something. But on this board, neither of those conditions are really foreseeable yet, so we can hold this move in reserve. But okay, black is just playing this one. This one I like here because it's just taking territory. If white jumps, black can just sort of force the shape. Black has gained extra points at the corner, and then black can play away. White then chooses to come back after just leaving the one exchange. Okay, this is fine too. And black is choosing to split. Now, I like this inside approaching move here. Of course, black could also approach from the outside, right? But if black tries to play like this, white's sort of already there to reduce him. So with that in mind, black says, okay, top is not valuable. If white is made to play a stone there, then I think we're pretty happy with giving white the upper side direction, because white cannot really hope to make a lot of territory in this place. It's just not super valuable. It's a very dry area. So I like black's direction. Black here chooses to play the classical move. Nothing wrong with this. Of course, the more modern application is to play the attach. It's more forcing. But this one is also fine. If white answers, black will take the base. If white pinches, black will take the corner. And if white tanukis, black doesn't have to play there at all either. So it's all working out fine for black. So far, so good. And now white's pinching 2 space low. This is a basic pattern. Slightly less powerful because the A stone is not at the B placement. Typically, we would like in the local fight for the stone at A to be 1 higher. It's going to have a lot more attacking pressure on black's 2 stones. As it stands right now, black's common answer is to jump 2 spaces. This is relation to invasion at A in the corner and attachment at B at E4. So what that would look like is if white plays away, black has attachment and then invasion. And the main idea is that now white's going to have a hard time playing descending because the Atari no longer works. We can break the shape with having this stone at 1 in place. Usually what will happen is white will answer with some move like G4 to remove that, and now black has managed to extract the 2 stones lightly to center by sente. This would be the normal method of the hangma here. Then black can, for example, come back and press the 1 white stone, or even cap if black wants to add another move of strength. In the game, black pinches directly. This one's also okay. Black comes out. This one is also okay. Hane is fine. Tanuki is also fine, but typically we expect this exchange. It's quite big. If white Tanukis, this pushing cut is not necessarily small. White doesn't really have good means to come through. If white ends up with some position like this, the whole white group has 0 eyes and is not alive, and black gets the whole left territory. So with this in mind, probably white doesn't want to allow that to happen, and white's either going to block here, or white's going to connect here, or white's going to turn. Connecting would be trying to prevent this from being a working connection for black. Now if black tries to do it, white themselves can connect underneath with good shape and territory. But of course, in this instance, black can descend. And again, this is turning on the pressure of this impending 3-3 invasion, which is not exactly an invasion to live, but it's more so an invasion that we play to destabilize white's 3 stones. When black has this group occupying space in the corner, removing white's eye space, it's very, very hard for white to use these stones to fight with these 4 black stones here on the outside. So it's an invasion that we play to really directly impact the fighting inside this box. And so that would be black's aim. White, of course, could fix this by playing any number of moves, like Descent or this one, or 3-3 directly. And the fight will continue without black getting that extra bit of help with the invasion, but it's a useful exchange for black to make 3 for any move in the corner. Then later, if black needs it, black can make an eye on the left with b8. So this one is usually a very important move to put in. When black doesn't put it in, white almost always blocks to take it away, because now if black connects or descends, white is effectively guaranteed 1 eye for the group by Sente. 1 eye by Sente in the fight is really big, because now white only ever needs to make 1 more eye to live. And white's facing the outside, which it should be quite easy to do. And we can look at the fight again, and it's now a 1-eyed white group versus a 0-eyed black group. So white is changing the landscape of the fight for the better. So this one might have been just a bit too greedy, a bit too fast. It's urgent before big situation. A move on the right is certainly big, but a move at A is urgent. Okay, black chooses to push in Hane. This is not really making too much sense. There's not a lot going on in this area, so I don't know why black is trying to fight from there. At least make this exchange first and then push. Because now, at least if white comes out, there's like grounds for black to fight here. And black can be somewhat okay with this. But in general, we don't really want to try moving towards this upper area, because unless we manage to get some kind of splitting attack around the circle area here, black can't really gain a lot. Okay, white captures, and then black is invading. Playable, but this is a very stressed relationship, and the shape inside between triangle and square is not the best shape per se for black. There's some liberty problems, especially with that E13 cut. White comes through, black attacks vital point, white descends. Descend possible. Usually this is indicating that if black comes out, white's plan is to push next, because this descent is going to aim for this clamp. And then something like this, which for white is trying to make 2 eyes locally. Whenever we don't have the pressure against the corner as easily, we can consider to play this Kosumi as well. Hane is certainly big. If I'm white, I think I want to exchange this one first. Also welcome, Patricia. By exchanging this one first, if black blocks, we can guarantee at least the 1 eye with the clamp. If black extends, however, we can get even more forcing moves against the corner with this ate warikomi at 3, this sort of pressing into the diagonal wedging move. If black extends, there's a cut left over that black has to be careful with. This side Tari is not going to be working. The 3 stones are captured this way. And then in this situation, it would be a ko to capture, because if black tries to avoid the ko, and like for now, we can count, it's 3 liberties white, versus 3 liberties black, and it's white playing first, so white is going to win this race. So the only way for black to win is to play Hane, this Hane here, and then to make a co-situation where white is the one capturing at T17. It's not the best result locally. And so black would probably have to play Atari like this, where white is only 2 liberties and black is 3 liberties, but then this is still going to allow white a squeeze. And the squeezing situation is going to be enough for white to generate at least 1 eye locally. So white can still make the 1 eye this way. So it's a rather big exchange for white to get. But okay, white plays Hane, black Hanes and white peeps. Peep is not really working yet. Black can even play this Hane and connect, even if white captures the 1 stone. As long as black is removing white's eye space and then defending, this should be perfectly fightable for black. As long as white is having to run this group, black can even consider to cut white off here and connect to the left-hand side. So this was a big opportunity for black to sort of sneak in. Instead, black is kind of getting muddled in the weeds here, and trying to fight with every stone white plays locally. Okay, so white captures the 2 stones. Now black has a choice. Black can play this extra Atari, which is quite big. It's going to allow black to connect through. Or black can try to go for the turn at B directly. There's a world, I think, where black can probably get both, and should probably take both. Okay, but he chooses to connect. And now white has the chance to play here yet again. If black doesn't connect at this step and instead chooses to turn here and allows white to connect, this Atari is big. If white extends, capture is not small. This is breaking any semblance of an eye here, plus giving an eye to black, so white will probably connect this. And then black is able to push at 5. There's no cut because our stone at H14 is already protecting. And if white cuts, we connect, so no issues there. And like this, white is also not connected necessarily below. There's no way for white to cut because of self-Atari. So something like this would be quite strong for black against the 6 white stones on the top side. So I think here was a maybe missed tempo by black, a little bit slow stepping. White chooses this one, which is unfortunately not a big enough threat. Black's block here, followed by knight's move, is going to be much bigger than white's block turn. Because in this situation, white is going to have to play very conservatively to capture the 1 stone. And post all the endgame, when we look at it, it's certainly not the smallest capture. You know, it's going to be something in the neighborhood of 13 to 14 points on the top end. But if the marked white stones die, then black's pickup is even bigger than that. So I think it's worthwhile for black to do the comparison. Whenever you see your opponent make an overstretched shape like this, it's usually an alarm bell ringing that there's some potential weakness here that we can exploit. Now again, we have the same idea, right? The 2 stones have a very big glaring weakness. This one's a bit easier to see now. We can sort of jump in. But black just connects through, and this is going to allow white to push yet again. Now here white is pushing in. This is a mistake. Generally speaking, you don't make this exchange unless you know for a fact you can cut. For example, like if this cut is going to be answered by Atari and you can get extra pushes in Sente, it's okay to do this. But in this case, none of the cuts are directly working for white, so all we're managing to accomplish here is losing 1 liberty for white. It would be a lot better for white to just push and fix white's shape. When black extends here, now there's not necessarily a working cut in the position, and white can extend. If black does try to cut, for example, we can sort of see where this is going to go. White's just going to be trapping the black stones inside. So okay, white burned the liberty and then takes this one. Then white extends. It's the same, just one slightly bad exchange. It's like -2 or 3 points. And black opts to come back and connect. This one is obviously okay. White is coming out. Okay, that's fine, but I think actually here, bigger than this one, is probably going to be still white blocking at 2, jumping at 3, or sliding at 4. Especially because if we can imagine some exchange here, and then white coming to this area, for example, or maybe even white trying to get black to defend somehow, and then coming up with something like this. 3 black stones on the bottom left have nowhere to run. And so white can enjoy a very nice pickup if those black 3 stones die. Actually, white's going to be quite ahead on territory if those black 3 stones die. So this little bit of lapse in tempo, this is not really sente against anything. This is giving black the opportunity to make this exchange should black want to, or even to simply press down with this knight's move. This would be quite big. But instead black jumps. Maybe black is thinking, whoops. Maybe black is thinking I'm attacking the A group. And to some extent it is, but right now white is got a jump to A and a slide to 2. So it's not clear white's going to answer. It's kind of like a danger level question. What's bigger, black's attack on 2 stones or white's surrounding of 3 stones? And the 3 stones are going to be slightly bigger in this case. White covers, and then black comes in. And so now I think black is just... black is still in attack mode, thinking that white is going to be in some danger here. And so black is trying to press the white group. But actually now is the time in the game for black to bridge these 2 groups together. It's a little slack. Now black is the one with the weak group having to run, and white gets the splitting attack. From here, the game is very firmly in white's hands. White would have to make an egregious mistake to start losing now, because white has decent territory with the upper side, what white can make in the bottom left from the attack. Black's only real big territory at the moment is the corner, and black has some good territory here, about 10 to 15 points. We're unsure what this area is going to be yet for either. But having the splitting attack against the weak black A group, which has 0 eyes, and the B group, which also has 0 eyes, should be enough for white to make sure that white has the leading territory. And then this is black just sort of giving up on the 3 stones. In general, I think this is a mistake. I think if black really wants to play, then black should be doing something like this. Try to see how white's going to answer. Try this, see how white's going to answer. Pull back when white splits. Drop down. You can build a territory this way, but the group in the center is going to die. But at least like this, you have a follow-up in the corner. Something like this might be possible. But once black has given up on the 3 stones like this, and white has captured the corner, it seems that white should be quite firmly ahead. Okay. Yeah. And now the game is moving to the Yosei. And both players are doing the endgame stuff, and at the end it was a win for white by 30. Right, and so that was able to manifest pretty much entirely because black gave up the 3 stones without a fight. Black did not have enough territory to pay for that sacrifice by the end of it. Moving on to the next game. This one was black by 79. It was fairly quick, 102 moves. This is PG10Q versus Ding Dong CA7Q.
Review started.
We shall begin from now. We've got quite a bit of time. This is the lowest numbered game. Okay. Off the bat, this move is a bit interesting. Generally speaking, in the opening, we would just count the number of spaces between stones if we want to play something. And we would usually prefer to play on the widest one, which here is going to be the right-hand side. So normally, if we're playing some approach, we would expect the approach at R6. Fundamentally, this one should be better. The main idea with such approaches is that if white backs off, then black can do anything from enclosing the corner at A or B to going for some Chinese at C or D. Also, black can tanuki. Nowadays, we would even see invasion at 1 with a 3-3 point. But here, black is invading on sort of the short side, immediately splitting white's area up, saying, okay, we're not going to play a framework game, we're going to play a territorial fighting game. So it's a bit of a concession, albeit a small one, maybe a point at most, and it's a very stylistic move. This f3 really says a lot about the black player. White plays on the widest side. This is very principled. It's also important to note that this move is a ladder breaker. Why is this important? One of the things that we have to consider when we're going to tanuki from black's approach to our haystone is that black might choose to reapproach something like 1. And against the reapproach, white's very often going to play this sort of attach extend idea, the Tsukinobi Joseki. If black plays the inside attachment, which is the most common Joseki move these days, then white can cut, provided white has a ladder. And so in this case, we can follow the ladder all the way to top right corner, and we can see that the white stone here is working very well as a ladder breaker for this particular corner pattern. So it's a good deflection of black's attack against the marked white stone. Black chooses to play 1 space low pincer. This one we used to see a lot back in the early 2000s, circa 2005-6 up to 2011-12. It was a very popular pincer. Nowadays we don't see it much. Usually players prefer to just take the direct territory the simple way, give the side framework to their opponent, and then jump in something like 7 or something here later. But again, it's another sort of stylistic thing, right? White had 2 stones facing each other on the side of the board, and black is again splitting the white stones apart, saying white cannot make anything big. This is a player who's probably not very good at playing against influence or playing against moyos. Black is preferring this territorial fighting strategy. We get attachment. This is one of the common Joseki. Another Joseki used to be also white could just come out. This is a sort of classic way to parry a knight's move check to a 4th line stone on the side of the board. Because the meaning is very simple. The direct attachment no longer connects through. We can see if black wants to try, it's going to turn into some shape like this, where black is getting cut apart. And so black would have to try to connect under via knight's move, which is going to allow white to break the shape again. This is the main meaning of 1. The attachment in the corner is looking for something else. It's kind of trying to see what is the intended future of black for the A and B group. Is black going to hane at 1 and settle the top? Is black going to cut at 2 and go for a trade? Is black going to tanuki and leave it for white to decide? All are possible. Let's see what happens. In the game, black chooses the trading variation. The standard Joseki back in the day would be to play this one, and then there would be a cut here, followed by an Atari, followed by a block, then an Atari, then this Atari, then this Atari, then connect. And so black would give up the upper side direction and the initial Q17 stone to white, and in exchange, black would switch and get a position facing the right side, this sort of really thick group. It's also worth pointing out that later in the game too, black also had a cut here that would allow black to start a fight. If white accepted the fight somehow, black would even get another forcing move in the corner with S18. It was really good stuff. This is a very old classic variation. In the game, white chooses this Atari, or black chooses this Atari. Black is looking for this. If white extends, black's plan is to stretch. This move will be met with Tiger's Mouth because this Atari cannot be working for white. And if white cuts, black is going to connect through and give up the 1 stone. Something like this would be good for black facing the outside. This is black's plan. Of course, if white Atari's down, this is also playable. White would get to pinch, but black would simply treat the stone lightly and destroy the right side even further. To circumvent it, white chooses not to extend and plays Atari, but actually it's slightly worse. Black can just immediately capture here. And in this situation, when black captures directly, white just doesn't really have a good next move. If white plays this Atari, it's not going to be Sente. Black can simply fly. It's true that white can capture, but in the opening, it's not big enough. Black can even Tanuki again. And then at any point, if white plays Atari, it can be this one, or any number of Ataris, black is going to have the ability to take back the Ko. Without a Ko threat, white would have to give Atari and then connect, and then black is going to be alive anyway. And something like this is going to be a bit of a risky fight for white. White is going to have effectively 2 weak groups. So not really ideal for white to play such type of variation. And that, as a result, means that this black connection is a little bit slack. Now white can get this Atari for free. It's a white forcing move. And then at any point, white's descent is also potentially forcing. If black ignores it, this descent for certain is forcing, otherwise black's corner will be dead. So black would have to live, and then white would have influence, strong influence on both sides. Okay, but by white descending here and cutting off the stone, black was able to extend, and this result should be slightly better for black. White plays the attachment. A bit concentrated. Normally we would go here. Generally speaking, we don't attach to weak stones. This will be a comment for Ding Dong Xie. Because when we attach to a weak stone, we help the weak stone get stronger. So for example, if black just extends, black goes from 4 liberty to 5. Black is getting stronger with every stone we attach. Every push makes black better and better. Instead, if we pinch and force him to be right next to our wall, it's very difficult for black to separate. If black flies, this is obviously the easy one. If black flies, we can connect underneath. This is this sort of simple method. Black is going to be in danger. Black is not quite alive yet. And if black, like for example, bumps and plays Hane, we can extend, jump, and we've connected our group below and taken all the territory. This would be fine. But this one, helping black to settle the right side, seems a bit much. That being said, black Tanuki. Typically we don't Tanuki this. It's almost always going to be Hane or extend. There's really no reason not to. If white attacks from the right-hand side, black's turn is quite big. White's group doesn't have any eyes yet. So this type of fighting shouldn't necessarily be so bad for black. Because the white group not having eyes and being forced to run is going to give black a lot of benefit over time. Okay. Black slides and takes the base. Then white captures very thickly. And then black Tanuki. Okay, so one thing we can notice, this relationship is a good one for black. If black attacks the white group is not necessarily alive yet. Even white blocks and plays Tiger's Mouth, it's still very difficult for white to Tanuki, because in this shape, white's going to need even more moves still to be alive. This is not quite tripod group yet. We can imagine this being a situation, right? Eventually white's going to connect and it'll be fine, but the white corner is kind of miserable here if we attack, and so that's going to be a lot more pressure on white. Because the problem with playing this one is after Joseki, white here can take a Sente, so white can fix, for example, 7 here or maybe here. White can fix this group, and even though black can cut, white can just Tanuki again. It would be way too expensive for black to continue adding moves here. You can just imagine something like this, and then let's have white extend. It's going to be really expensive for black to fully capture the 3 stones. But if black never fully captures them, then later in the game, white's going to get to run them. And get a lot of different benefits. For example, something like this, or maybe white can even jump again. So many different things white can do with that group in the bottom left. Instead, white chooses to build the wall. Black does not need this move at F2 unless white has a stone at A. If black is worried about white cutting, because white has the ladder, black can just simply extend this way and it's better for black territory. White took a base and then black jumped. This move is, again, not really making a lot of sense. If we imagine this black group is alive, which it is, then we consider this group to be thick. All living groups are thick groups. If that's the case, we should play as far away from the thickness as possible. We want our opponent to play close to thickness because there's very little territory that can be made if they're playing next to thick stones. Thick implies that they're hard or impossible to attack. So without attacking possibilities, the opponent can't really expect to get many things. So this one by black was just a little bit slow. And then white gets to fix. That's a positive for white. Black finally encloses, and then the invasion fight begins. Okay. This one, taking topside is okay, but then I wonder, why did we invade? At this point, it seems maybe it's better for black to split. Maybe black was worried, oh, white's going to get to keep the head position low, something like this maybe. And although that's true, white also has to be careful because white's own group is not alive yet. Right, we can imagine some position like this, where white is barely having to answer everything to live, and black is gaining a lot of influence on the outside, which black can use in the second half of the game somehow. And still, it's not like black isn't getting any territory on top. Black was able to net 6 to 8 points pretty easily. Plus, black retained Sente this way, so I like the idea of coming out. If the plan was to play on the top side, I don't see why we would invade one time first and then come here. It just makes more sense, I think, to come here directly if that's the plan. Because in this case, we just allow white to play Kosumi, and then our invading stone at C11 has died, and we haven't really gotten much to show for it yet. Okay, but instead, white chooses to invade. Talk a little bit about invasions for a second. This will be for most of the Q players that either watch this or the ones that are here now, when to invade. It could be very tempting to look at this big area and go, oh, that's too big, I have to stop this. But in general, we need to remember that invasions become a lot harder if we have weak groups. So for example, if black descends at A, this white group locally only has one eye. If black gets to play at B, these two white stones have 0 eyes and a base. There are potentially 2 weak groups already. If black plays at B also, black can be threatening anything around the C group, so another group that's not quite alive yet. C is in the best shape out of the 3, besides maybe the upper right corner, but there's still 2 pretty interesting white groups next to this top side. If white invades, white's sort of handing black control here. And what black should be thinking about doing is how to use white's invasion against them to then get a natural attack on one or both of the other remaining white groups. What black should not be thinking about doing is killing this white stone. It might seem counterintuitive. You might go, Sensei, but I just played this move on the top side. Surely I'm trying to take all of this territory for myself. And that's certainly what you're telling your opponent. But that's really not the point of making such a move. This fourth line move is in the center of the board. It's here to exert power for fighting and control. It's not really here to take territory. So when white invades, this is a good opportunity to really flex that stone's muscle. That's why this black kick is maybe not the best way to go. Something black can do instead would be, for example, this peep and knight's move to keep white separated. Now, if white is jumping out, black can consider kicking and removing the base from white, and black is in an attacking stance against white's 6 stones. All the while, black is elevating a wall here, which is naturally surrounding the white group on the right-hand side of the board. If we imagine something like this, where white is getting completely surrounded and needs to find a way to make a local life, then in the future, once black has gained the thickness, black can consider a plethora of different things, and this white group on the right side is also not alive yet. Again, just as an example. So this one, just passively taking territory, is a little too easy on white. Okay, white crosscut and used the sacrifice to stabilize, but black got some extra territory out of it. Black doesn't seem to be too unhappy, and then black plays L2. Probably this is looking to attach here at A. Black could also consider at this point to just go directly to M2 and push. If white ignores this move, then later black can play Hane double Hane, which is quite big. So we no reason to be timid. We can go all the way. Okay, white came out, and black is now reducing the white area. Ooh, very thick. Sort of recognizing that white's got a bit of a weakness with the knight's move, and so black wants some strength there to cut in the future. Cut here might be slightly dubious for white, because now black's cut is working. Which black does. Captures, and now the white group is incredibly weak. Currently it only has one eye. Black does not need to connect here. If black simply goes here, there's nothing white can do. If white cuts, we Atari. If white pushes and cuts, we Atari. No matter what happens, we can meet it with Atari. If white clamps, we can connect at that point. There's no eyes. White is dead. Okay, so white gets to play that one first. And so white is trying to live. This group is still not locally alive yet. Black was already really strong. Connecting here would have been enough. If white did this, there was still the cut, so white would have been dead. And like this, white is dead all the same. Yeah. Now post group death, then obviously black is way far ahead. I don't think it's going to be possible, barring the death of the lower right black group somehow, for white to even hope to come back from this. So white defended themselves with L4 and then decided, okay, enough is enough. They resigned this game. All right, that will conclude my review for this evening.